Hello! Today we will cover one interesting topic. We'll talk about deployment of an arbitrary Node.js app to your server. We'll create an empty server from scratch and then set up everything we need. It's Node.js, process manager for Node.js. We will use PM2, engine server. Then we will attach a domain, issue a free SSL certificate, and that's probably it. We will work with an Express app. I'll create an elementary Express app, and in the end, I will show you how to deal with Next.js apps. So let's go. Sidebar. If you have a question about what is a process manager in context of Node, watch my previous video. I will link the link below. Again, I have a simple Express app with two routes. I can launch it directly from command line. Let's do it. Node index. Let's see, it works. So now let's try to install PM2 and launch the app through the PM2. What I'm doing, I'm yarn add PM2. I'm installing PM2 locally. Okay, and then before we begin, let's look on the PM2 config. Of course, you can launch the application without config, but I prefer a config approach since it's a little bit more flexible. This is the config for PM2 for the application, and let's see let's highlight the most important lines in the config. So it's a script, it's a pass to your script, and then exec mode. It could be cluster or fork, and this is probably the most important. The cluster is better for production. It means the cluster approach scales an app across all CPUs available. For example, if my machine has 16 cores, 16 workers will be started. More workers, more requests you can handle simultaneously, so it is more productive. And instances responsible for how many workers will be started. 0 means the amount of workers is equal to amount of CPU's cores. But you need to keep in mind, to run the application in cluster mode, there shouldn't be a shared state across workers. For example, sessions. Sessions should be stored in database or in Redis or in a file system or whatever, but not in memory, because in memory it means shared state. So let's launch the application through the config. For this you need to type npx pm2 start pm2. Somebody might ask, what is it npx? And npx I'm using to use PM2 from my local node modules folder. On the server we will use a little bit another approach. So then let's start. Yeah, and let's try to see if it works. Yeah, it works. So the application now is started through the PM2. Bingo, you are awesome. Let's continue. So we need to review the most important commands from the PM2. So the most important commands are npx pm2 list. Okay, and it shows you the whole list of workers on your machine. Then there is an interactive monitoring called npx pm2 monit. It can show you some important metrics or console log or errors. Okay, and then what else? Let me check my okay, then you need to for example, you want to restart the app. It's npx, it's an npx PM2 restart, and then you specify the name you want to restart, for example app, and it will be restarted. For example, you updated something on the production, and then for example, you want to stop the app, stop, and then let's check npx PM2 list. You see the stop it, and if I go to the browser, it doesn't work. So, and then npx PM2 delete and specify the app name. You cannot specify the keyword all. You will remove all, stop and remove all the apps. So this is probably it. This is the most important comment. I think we covered all the basics, and it's time to configure a server. So let's create the new virtual server. In DigitalOcean it calls Droplets. Let's see. I deliberately chose the more expensive machine because I want to highlight the difference between fork mode and a cluster mode, and I need a machine with at least 2 CPUs. So it's here, select here, so create droplet has been created. Then you can copy IP address and test. So, and the web server is unreachable because it's hasn't been configured, but we can connect to the web server through the SSH. That's what I'm doing now. Password. Okay, I'm in. Then we need to install some basic tools and libraries, as well as NGINX server. Let's do it. We need to install these tools. I just prepared something, but it's really easy. So we update the libraries, and then we install NGINX, JIT, Vim, it's a text editor, you can use whatever you want, Midnight Commander, it might be useful, and the certbot for issuing a free SSL certificate. So let's do it. It will ask you confirmation. Yes. And while it's installing, let's connect to the server in another terminal and create a user, because using a root user for a node, it's a bad practice, as well as any other applications, not just Node. So we are here, and then user, I will call it Node, but you can call whatever, user, and we also need to specify a password. Information is correct. Okay, the user has been created. Let's log in with the new user. Node. Okay, I'm in. Let's check the installation process. It should be installed in a moment. Okay, installed. Then let's switch to the who am I? I'm a node. Okay, now we need to install Node.js, and I suggest using NPM as a most convenient tool for installing a node on a server. And to do it, I will go to Git repository, and let me show you. Copy the installation instructions. So, and here is a copy. I think it's installed. Okay, let's check. Yeah, nvm works, and then we can type nvm ls remote, and it shows all available versions available for the installations, and I suggest to use just latest vm install. Yeah, but while it's okay, while it's installing, let's check how Nginx was installed. It should be installed and launched automatically. So even if I go to Chrome and update a page, it should be, yeah, it's a default Nginx because we have just installed it. So let's go back. Node is installed. So if I type node, it shows me the version, and it's the correct version. Now we need to install yarn and the PM2, and we will install it globally. And PM2, and it's a difference because locally we use the local PM2, and on the server I would recommend to use a global installation. Okay, and then we need to grab a code, our code of our projects, sources of our project, and to do it, I will use Git as well. So I've committed everything to the public repository. If you have a private, you need to set up your exchange your public keys, and that is almost the same process. Okay, the PM2 is installed, yarn is installed. I grab the code, so I go to the project folder and install all the dependencies. And that's it. And now we are ready to run a Node.js script through the PM2. So let's do it. It's the same as we did locally. I type PM2 start PM2. So the application is started. If I type PM2 list, as you can see, the status is online, so it means the application was launched. And one important detail, now we need to add a PM2 to startup script. It means if a server is rebooted by any reason, after it's up again, the PM2 processes will be started again. So you can don't afraid to reboot your server. And to do it, I type PM2 startup, and then copy paste this command. Password for Node. Let me find my password. Okay, I need to add a user as a pseudo user. I will do it shortly. And also we need to save processes. PM2 save. Okay, it's saved. So let's now we need to add a user to pseudo users, and then we need to configure our Nginx server, and we are set. So not so complicated. We are almost done. Add the node user to sudo. It's the command called user mode ag sudo, and specify the username node So it should be in sudo user. So let's this is a terminal with the root user. Who am I? Yeah, I'm a root, and this is a node. So let's check sudo. I need to reconnect. Let's try. SSH node. Sudo who am I. Yeah, as you can see, it behaves like a root user. So now we can add a PM2 to startup script. So let's do it. PM2 startup. And execute this command. So that's good. And as I told you before, we need to save processes list or freeze a process list, which will be launched on the after a reboot. So you need to run PM2 save. Okay. Okay, and then go back and configure an NGINX server. So let's go back on this terminal, root. Okay, I go to etc NGINX. Let's overview the folder. I'm already. To be clear, MC. Okay, let's etc NGINX. This is an NGINX folder, and to add a site, we need to go to sites available and create a file here with a config. And to do it, I will go to command line, vim node site.conf. The extension .conf is mandatory. So this is NGINX config, and I've already prepared the config. Now I will just copy it, and then we will go back and review the most important lines. So let me copy the config. Yeah, and the config will be in the repository, so you can just go to the repository and copy also, and then modify it. So I type I to enter the insert mode, and then type command V. This is the config. Save, and then go to sites enabled folder. Sites enabled. Yeah, and as you can see, if I go to the Chrome and see, I see the default NGINX page. And now let's create a symbolic link from our config, from our config to a file in sites enabled. So as you can see, I've created a symbolic link. Now, when you made some changes, you need to test a config before you reload an NGINX. You can do it with the command NGINX -t. So as you can see, the syntax is okay, and I can safely reload the NGINX. NGINX is reload. So NGINX is reloaded. And if I go to Chrome and reload the page, I will see hello world. Awesome! You are awesome. It works. Now let's overview the NGINX config. One moment. I will open it. Yeah, this is NGINX config, and it might look scary, but in fact it is not. And at the beginning you can just copy, and you just need to specify this block, server, listen, server name, and you need to specify a proxy, like this is the address and the port of your Node.js app. This one I think it's necessary, and others is not necessary, just like proxying headers or adding some extra headers to your Node.js app. In many cases you don't need it, but to be like, how can I say, to do it right, I put it here. And you might ask, where did they copy it from? And so you can go to Google and type in Google config generator, and you will find DigitalOcean or any resources. I think they work on the same engine. So we click here and specify Node.js. Oh, it's in Russian. And then you will see actually the config I've copied. So this is a header section. I just put it in one file, but you can split it across multiple files, so it's like a more right way. But since we are teaching, I think the single config is more convenient for you. It looks, it doesn't look scary. So this is about config, yeah. And we have a working website. We launched a PM2, we launched a Node.js app, so everything works as expected. And now we need to attach a domain, issue certificate, and then I will set up another application with Next.js, and that's probably all. So we are not so far from the finish line. Here I've created a domain, a subdomain, very nice domain. It's I will show you, video-recording-1 boundlesscommerce.com. So let's test. It works, and I've created the A record from the domain to our server. And now we need to adjust our engine config. We go to it's available, and we need to adjust server name. We can specify it here. And it should work. And then test NextJS, reload. Okay, and then go to Chrome. It doesn't, probably my local DNS hasn't been updated yet. But anyway, let's try to issue a certificate. Probably on a server it will work. So how to issue a certificate? We need to call a certbot command, and I haven't installed it in NGINX plugin. One moment, I forgot about it, honestly. Web NGINX. Search. One moment, we will fix it. Yep. pt install, and this one. Need to install a plugin. Sorry, today I'm not fully prepared for the video recording. It's just like, how can I say, spontaneously shooting. So sometimes I might be a little bit wrong. I hope not critically. So let's try to launch again. And email address. Yes, of course, I agree. Yes. So, and when you run this command, this is actually the command, you need to run it under the root user, or with a sudo if it's not if it's a non-root user, and then you need to specify a domain. Like this is a domain you want to a certificate, you want to issue a certificate for, so you need to specify a number. If you want to install multiple certificates, you can specify multiple numbers. So let's enter. I hope they're both yeah, certificate is ready. Boom, congratulations. And it should be, and if we go to NGINX, NGINX available, and view this config, we will see that Certbot added a configuration for a certificate automatically, so we don't need to manage anything. So we just like enjoying. Then let's see, maybe, yeah, boom, it works. As you can see, we have a secure connection, and we have my domain with the A record, and this is our Node.js app. So looks like everything is installed correctly. So we installed it in NGINX, we installed it Node.js, we installed it PM2, we added to like auto restart, so everything is installed. And the last thing I want to cover is a difference between Node.js and Next.js application, because with a Next.js there is very little difference, and I want you to show how to install a Next.js app to your own server with PM2. So let's go. Let's launch Next.js app, and I will use our Next.js e-commerce template as a Next.js app. I will grab a code from the GitHub. Then cd bounders yarn install. And while it's installing, let's look on the difference in the PM2 config file. So, and I prepared a config file for PM2 and Next.js, and the only difference is these two lines. It's a script and args. In script, we, instead of specify a path to script on the main file, you need to specify path to Next.js binary file, and it's located for everybody on the same place, so node modulus next this bin next. And also you need to specify an argument, so it's a start. And if we compare for a config for an arbitrary Node.js application, so let's see, here we specify a script to index.js, and for Next.js it's pointing to a Next.js binary file. So let's try to launch the application. Now we have our arbitrary express app. but we will change it quickly. So now we need to modify the env file. Okay, we need to copy it first. Env. Env. And it's a specific env file only for boundless cameras. So in your case, you might have another env file. So it's up to you. Yeah, that's all. And before we start the building process, because Next.js have a static content which needs to be pre-built before we actually launch it. And before we start the building process, I need to install some minor thing, because on the server we have a Node.js number 18, and our repository for Next.js is still Next 12, and there is some bug, known bug. And to solve it, you need to install some library called Sharp. It's because of image processing, but it will be quickly, so don't worry. Yeah, it should be quickly, please. Yeah, it's installed. Now we launching a build process, yarn build. And while application is building, let's connect to the server in another terminal and upload a PM2 config, so we prepare everything, because build will take some time. Just to save the time. Okay. Connected. So let's go to boundless, and let's place it in the PM2 folder. Then call it, I don't know, prod.config.js. And copy from here on. I hope it works. Yeah, looks correct. Okay. And now we have our hello world up. Let's stop it. Check if it worked, if it stopped. Yeah, the application is down, and this is a response from the NGINX. Okay, yeah, the application has been built. So the moment of truth, launching a Next.js app. So I type PM2 start. As you can, magic happens. As you can see, the next apps started in the cluster mode, and this is the version. And if we go to our domain and refresh the page, it should be, yeah, it's Next.js app. Fantastic. Awesome. It's just great. It just works, and I really love it. Love the node. Love the servers. So it works. And the probably which topic we haven't covered. Monit, you can go to Monit and see what's actually going with the application. Probably you won't see any super useful information. Logs. PM2 write logs in your home folder. So for example, if I go to, this is my home folder, this is a folder for PM2 logs, and if you have an option specific like merge logs, logs from all workers will be combined into a single file. So your app will have two log files. It's first for out, like console log output, and second it's like console error output. It's an so as you can see, app example error and app example out, error and out, and you can view it. It's something like ready and loaded environment. So something like this, and yeah, and this is probably all. We covered all the how can I say, all the topics, and it's time to go home today. It's Friday. Yeah, what else I could say? What else? Yeah, maybe you are interested in how to launch a Node.js app with a Docker and your own server. If you want, if you're interested, just let me know, and I will show you how to how can I say, organize a build and deployment. If you're interested in set up CI/CD for your own server, also just leave a comment, and I will record a video how to do it. And also, and it would be great if you give me some clues which topics I need to cover. So it might be programming topic, it might be server administration topic, or I don't know, whatever topic you are interested in. So leave a comment. So please give me a feedback. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate that you're watching these videos. So don't forget to click on the thumb button. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Have a nice day. Goodbye.